All right, well, happy Sunday morning. Going to be tearing into this today. We have to put the fenders on this thing so we can get it to our enhanced inspection. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am going to read through the build guide yet again, even though it really provides not that much information. I can't find anything online. I can't find any YouTube videos. So you're going to go through this with me as I'm learning. What I might actually do is take one side off, kind of figure out some ideas. I don't know that you want to watch me go through the whole creative process of trying to figure this whole thing out. But nonetheless, we got to take all the wheels off, get the actual fenders out of the box. I did take these things, which are just the mounting hangers, whatever you want to call them. And we are going, and I just, put some flat black on those. And then we are going to have to figure out how to mount them on the chassis and come up with some kind of way to secure the fenders to those, because it doesn't actually come with any hardware to do that. So we're going to be basically making all of this up as we go. I will poke around here for a little bit, and then I'll jump right back into it and kind of show you my initial thoughts and then maybe some forward progress. But we have to finish it today, so let's just get after it. Thanks. All right, well, fenders come packed, and they everything that Exocet sends, I will give them this. They package everything super well. It's almost impossible to get through. Trick I recently learned: take your razor, get it glowing a little bit there, and then just like cutting through butter. This is awesome. I struggled so much cutting through so much plastic before. Like when I was trying to unwrap the hood, they put miles of shrink wrap on that. For the hood to unwrap that, oh, I was swearing, I was pulling on stuff. This plastic won't let go. And I just saw that. I'm like, dude, could have saved me so many swear words trying to get that done before. So anyways, these are the fenders from the Exocet. You'll notice that there's no mounting holes in it anywhere. There's no fixtures here. It's basically just a fiberglass shell. So what we're gonna do is at some point, looking at the profile, this is gonna be outside, this is gonna be inside. We're gonna basically have to mount those brackets to the chassis, figure out kind of eyeball where this is gonna go, and then we're gonna have to make some holes in this so that we can slip those brackets through the fender, see where they line up here. The build guide says then you just use some polyurethane adhesive and glue it on there, or P-clips, or it's one of these things where Jim Bob did it this way and Tony did it that way, so this is how you can maybe do it, and then you figure it out on your own. It would be awesome if this was drilled, fixation points in there, and then you can move on, but that's just the way it is. So I've said it before, this is kind of a learn as you go kind of project. Make it up as you go. The instruction manual helps, but there's an awful lot of it you're gonna have to figure out on your own. All right, well, here's the back table. I know for sure these are the front mounts for the fender support. Then you've got 4 that are identical, that are these with the little tabs on them, right? And then per the instruction manual here, I know that these are the rear ones because they have the longer tabs. But then, you get pictures and like, hey, this goes here. And like, hey, just hold that up there and such. But then note, the forward mount in this photo is the old style replaced by the new model that bolts to the stock brake dust shield location. Well, that's There's just not a lot of description here to help you figure out what it is that you're mounting where. So I'm going to go ahead and just take the front wheel off for now so that I can start figuring out where we're going to bolt to the caliper thing here, take the dust shield out and things like that. So figure it out as we go. Let's get to work. All right, so first challenge of the day. Little sledge wouldn't work, had to go get the big guns here. Honestly, this donor has been awesome and I have not had any problems with it. Really without any rust at all other than getting this off of there. So anyways, there's that. So now I gotta get the dust cover off and then figure out how this goes on there. One of these, I'm gonna assume that's this one. There's bolts on the dust cover. So we're gonna remove those, get rid of the dust cover, and stick this on there some way or another. Probably use the wire wheel of death to clean this up a little bit. Maybe, you know, Craigslist rebuild with a rattle can, make it look like this stuff. But all right, so I'm already sweaty. Let's get this off of here, keep moving forward. Okay, fun stuff, FYI. If you're building an Exocet and you want to put the fender mounts on and you want to mount this, you are going to need to take the rotor off. You could obviously see on mine that it was totally frozen. Hopefully your donor isn't that bad. Once you get past that, you have to remove the dust cover and you have to remove the spindle nut. Spindle nut, so you know, is 32 millimeters. And I don't have that. I have one that's 36, I believe. This was for my Silverado. And I'm gonna have to go buy that so I can take that off, so I can take the spindle off, so that I can take the dust cover off. So what I'm going to do at the moment is I'm just gonna take all the wheels off and I'm gonna soak all the hardware with a whole bunch of penetrating fluid. I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna get that socket and then I will be back. So I will save you the trouble so you know this ahead of time. Per the interwebs, that is a 32. So go buy one of those if you plan on doing this part of the project. All right, well, a couple hours later for a number of reasons. First of which is the interwebs are helpful, sometimes they're not. So when you look up, you know, the spindle nuts, axle nuts for the 1999 Miata, it will tell you that in fact it is a 32 millimeter, which sure, for the rears, well, then you try and go put that on the fronts, smaller, just because why not just make it difficult? Anyways, got the front off. Hi, Zena. What you doing, doggy? Just loving on me, huh? Anyways, well, here comes Nico too. Got to join the party. What's up, buddy? Okay, so back to this. All right, so DeWalt wasn't strong enough to get it off, so we had to do the old 1/2 inch on a pipe to break it loose. And then I had to get the big Ugga Dugga out to get them off. So they were secured on there. Anyways, second run to the parts store because the interwebs tell me that this is a 30. It's in fact a 29. Anyways, a couple trips to the parts store later and we got the front hubs off. Still got to work on the rears. That's going to take some beating with a BFH again, just because I don't know. It's the first time brakes have ever been done on this thing. I'm not sure. Also in between, took the Master to car show. Took it to the Blair County Antique Auto Club 50th anniversary car show. So I'll just kind of do a montage at the end of the video. I'm not going to throw it here in the middle. But what I am going to do is beat the crap out of that with a hammer and try and get the rear spindles off so I can get those dust covers off as well. I just gotta undo these 3 bolts here to get this dust cover off, and then the fronts should be ready to go to try and mount some of this. So anyways, that's what's been happening. Just keeping you posted along the way. So I'm gonna, I don't know, maybe I'll take the front dust covers off real quick first and then go beat on those a little bit. All right, so got that off of there. You know, everything on this car is pretty clean. That was a little bit crusty there. So anyways, I'm gonna clean this up with a wire wheel real quick. And looks like we need a tie rod end there. Yep, be replacing that thing. Anyways, so I'm gonna clean this up real quick. Probably do the old with some matte black and move on from there. Well, here we are again, many hours later. Yeah, that. Show you that in a second. So I also got the rear rotors off. Man, they were bonded on there pretty good. Got the BFH out again so we could get those off. But I don't know that I can get the rear dust cover off without pulling the axle and pressing the spindle out. I'm not 100% on that. Tried looking at videos, and really the only thing that I can find is the only way this comes out is by pressing it out. And I don't want to do the bearings. The bearings are fine, so we might be keeping that. But anyways, just, you know, making a mess on the floor. But here's all the brake stuff. I did take this, and I do have the one front bracket brace thing on there, and that's just secured to the spindle with these 3 bolts that used to hold the dust cover on. I just cleaned that off a little bit. And here is my hub that is, you know, again, professionally Craigslist rebuilt with rattle can. And so anyways, got that on there with 1 brace. My understanding of the guide is that the other brace mounts to this, the 1 caliper bolt, but again, I guess if we can find one in here, I don't get any holes drilled in these, so my understanding is that this is supposed to go like such, somewhere in this vicinity around here. So what I will do is drill a hole in this so that the caliper bolt can go through it. I saw one guy who had a pretty good idea that actually once this is in here, like this, and once you figure out your final placement to this, then welded a brace kind of horizontally in between the 2 of them. And then the fender just kind of sits on top of it. So anyways, I'm going to reassemble the spindle here with the spindle nut, get that back in place, drill a hole in this, and then throw this one on there. It is, again, many hours later, 10 o'clock now on Sunday. And hey, my nephew and niece came to visit for a second. My sister-in-law going through town. So anyways, they had some fun, revved the Master Deluxe up. Show you that here in a second. And they enjoyed that. So I'm gonna mess around with this and see if I can button up this side for tonight and call it a day. Do it again. I just want to go through the build guide again. Again, specifically, very non-specific. We're supposed to note the angle and where it fits to be bolted via the top caliper bolt. And there's a picture of a dude holding a thing from one angle. That's great. So I've got 2 tabs. Well, I mean, I've got 2 of each of these, right? So you'll notice that they're going opposite directions. Okay, so let's look at option 1. Option 1 would be if I use it on this angle. I'm gonna try and hold this. Okay, so you can see kind of that's and it will not focus because why would it focus on anything useful? Let's look over here. Come on now, focus. Holy buckets. Okay, now we're focused. Okay, so here you can see, it's hard to get this back on an angle back here and do it with two hands, but all right, that's option one. Option two. I have no idea which one should be more corrector-ish. So, got to drill holes in all of them anyways, so I guess I'll do that. Just, you know, endless frustration. I know it's supposed to be bolted there, but I have no idea which one of those I should use. So, trial and error, just like everything else on this kit. All right, well, it's even later than before, and I have one mocked up here. If I had one word, meh. All right, so this is just sitting here. The reason I put the screwdriver in there was just to kind of make my gap even, because there's nothing actually supporting it in there. So if I take this out, it just does that. The reason it does that is because these things here have nothing to support on the inside of this here. So I just drilled some holes after I held this up here to kind of eyeball it. Oh, and by the way, I went with the bracket here that was more horizontal in orientation. So if you can see it there, focused right there. This is more horizontal than the other one. And I went with that because, well, before I put the wheel on there, basically what I did is I took my level, which won't work now because the wheel is taller than those things, but I just put this on here, and let me see if I can kind of simulate it. So I basically put it on these two brackets here, and then I looked at my level, my bubble, yeah, right there. So basically all I did is I tried one with the more vertical bracket on the back, and it was low an inch in the back. So I decided to try the other one. That seemed to be, and if I put the level from the top of this to the top of that, then I was more in the range. So then I thought, okay, well, I'll mount the caliper bracket, and I just put the wheel on there so I could see what the fender looks like. I mean, I guess it'll do the thing for legal purposes, but let me try and do this one-handed, get my doodad on here. Okay, there we go. So it'll do the legal thing. Again, there's no way to mount it there right now, so it's just kind of hanging. But if you're up under there, okay, you can see that this, basically this horizontal bar going across here, there's no way to mount that. So you know, this is great. You know, the instructions, a number of ways builders have approached securing the fiberglass fenders to the steel mounts. Maybe my misunderstanding, but again, in a kit car, you'd think the kit would come with the pieces that you would have specific ways to mount things. That has not been the case. So anyways, just like the rest of the car, it might just be P-clips holding this on here. And that's it. So that's to meet the legal requirements in the state of Pennsylvania. So now I gotta figure out the rear ones. And again, I don't think I can get that dust cover off of there without removing the axle and the spindle and all that stuff. And I don't think I'm gonna do that. So we might just leave that dust cover on there. But I do think I am going to replace rotors and such because they're pretty crustified. So I'm probably just gonna stop at the store tomorrow and get some new rotors and pads, freshen it up a little bit. So anyways, it is now approaching 11 and I've had enough of it. Hot and sweaty, and I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm not gonna. I'm going to bed. I'm gonna shower up, relax for a little bit, and crash. So I'll leave this like this so it looks like I did something and come back after it tomorrow. Anyways, that's it. See you later. Action.
Go.
All right, well, struggle bus evening as the usual. So I emailed the guy at Exocet and I asked, I can't figure out a way to get the dust carvers off the rear, the old interwebs. Basically, guy took the whole axle out and had put it in the press and then popped this off because the way it's attached to the spindle. And he said, yeah, just cut it on one side, relief cut on the other, and pry it off of there. So that's what I did there. Well, then the next step is figuring out which of these brackets things here goes on which side, and none of them are labeled as would be expected. But what I decided was it looked best if this one, and again, I just arbitrarily drilled 2 holes there. That is going to mount to this tab here that sticks off the back of the spindle. The best way I can figure out that mounts is like such, okay? If you look at the build guide, it shows a drill coming in from that direction and drilling through this. Well, what you'll notice is there's no shock in here, and there's no way that you can actually get a drill in there without taking the shock out. At first, I thought I'd be a smart guy and I would just release the spindle from the upper control arm, and then I thought I could just push the axle back and then tip it down, and then I can drill straight down through the spindle. Well, after whacking that with a hammer for a while, you can see it's nice and shiny now. That's because I mushroomed it out so bad with the sledgehammer that I had to grind down that so that the spindle nut goes back over it and the axle wouldn't move at all. So those are staying where they are. We did take the shock out, and I'm going to drill these 2 holes. Also, I have no idea how I'm going to actually hold that on there while I'm trying to drill those holes. So probably what I'll do is actually just mark it with a marker and then drill holes, and hopefully they line up at the end. The other one is supposed to go to the caliper bracket on the top. So basically we'll have one like such and one like such. And that's my plan. The build guide isn't entirely clear on it, so we're just going to make it up as we go. So next step is to try and drill 2 crappy holes through that thing while it's still on the car. So I'm going to do that now.
Go.
All right, so a couple minutes went by and I realized a couple of things. First off, trying to get the drill in there with the sway bar ain't gonna happen. I'm probably gonna have to take that out anyways, but the other thing is, there's no way that I can control this and hold it on there even while I'm trying to mark the holes where I'm going to drill. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a couple of tacks onto this bracket where it mounts to that spindle, and hopefully that holds it in place well enough so that I can do my drilling. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. So just gonna see if I can goober something together here. Of course, I had to grind off some paint on there, get it ground. Let's see how ugly this is. So all I'm trying to do is make it flush with that little tab on the spindle. That might not be a bad idea, is just welding that whole damn thing. We'll see how hard the drilling is. Maybe I'll put another one in there. All right, so I had to whack the other tacks off because apparently I'm cross-eyed and I can't weld straight. So, and then I tried to tweak the little bar here and I broke my tack welds, so I had to grind it off and restart it. Anyways, pointer here. I have my lovely assistant helping. You can come around this way. You'll see that I have 4 holes drilled in there. That's because when I drilled the first 2, I realized I was too close to the spindle that way. There's not much room here. I mean, I got 1/2 inch, maybe you can see my index finger there. So these holes have to pass through this tab to get to this side so we can put a nut and bolt on this thing. So you got to bias these holes all the way to the rear as much as possible. And I found out that if I snake my drill in here, like so, I can avoid taking the rear sway bar out. So we're going to try this for a second and find out how terrible this is. See if we can get through that in the most awkward drilling position ever. Whoa! Okay, now we're stuck on the retard mode. How do we get that out of there? Oh, Jesus. All right, I don't know what the time was on that, but anyways, I drilled a 1/4-inch hole, figuring I'd do a 1/4 bolt through that. You can see when I went through, I busted my tacks again. Caught the outside of the boot there, but it seems to be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind those off yet again. And I'll put a bolt through that, tighten it down, give it a full send, and then I'll drill the bottom hole. But again, if you look at that, you can see where that hole is. Get some light here. That one apparently is dead. So things are going swimmingly for me tonight. There. You can see where the hole is. So you got to bias that hole way towards the rearmost part of the car. So yeah, I'll do that now. All right, so I got the passenger side done and learned some lessons. First off is that I put some much heavier tacks on here. I ground it off a little bit more, got that hopefully prepped so that that'll stay in place. First things first, all I did is I popped the bolt out of the upper control arm so I could get that down. Took the shock out right away. My drill does fit in this little hole here between the sway bar and the upper control arm, so it fits kind of right in that area there. So we're going to drill those 2 holes and put some bolts in it. It's not the prettiest thing, but that's pretty close to what they show in the build guide. So you can see my goofy looking bracket here coming down to this tab, and we've got our 2 bolts running through there to hold that thing on there. It is actually pretty sturdy. Got this put back together on the passenger side. So just going to repeat the process over here, but I would definitely recommend doing this. I see no other way that you can hold it on there in a reasonable fashion while you're drilling the holes through. So I'm going to do that. It is starting to get late, and I got to get up early because my daughter's getting her wisdom teeth pulled out tomorrow. So I'm going to finish this bit here and then be done for the night. Okay, out of breath from that. So, a couple of things, just take away pearls for doing the fender mounts that I learned just by trial and error here. First off, you definitely need to cut off the dust covers. There's no way you have access to that thing to drill those holes to mount this thing without the dust cover being gone. So, to remove the dust cover, cut through one side, relief cut the other. I trimmed a little bit off to make it easier to get the grinding wheel in there. Anyways, first things first, get rid of the dust cover. Second thing, unless you're doing this before you've got the Exocet chassis all on your roller skate, then what you're gonna need to do, loosen the control arm if you can. Now on this side, it's funny. The axle, if you notice, it easily moves in and out here. So not as much of an issue on this side, I guess, if I would have decided to do the driver's side first. But anyways, if you want to loosen this, drop your spindle a little bit. That'll give you room, but you have to take the shock out. So as I said, unless you are doing this before any of the chassis is on here and you're just on your roller skate, all of that stuff's going to be in the way and you're going to need to do it. But I can't see why you'd want to try and figure out how you're going to mount your fenders without having the chassis on there. Okay, then when you drill these holes, I found it convenient to tack weld that bracket onto this tab to hold it in place to drill through. The other thing is, make sure those holes that you drill through the tab that's on the fender mounting bracket here are further enough backwards so that you have room to run the bolts through. I just ran two, they're parallel-ish quarter 20s. You can use metric if that's what you like. And what I'm going to do then is put this side back together like I did over here. Again, you know, I drilled 4 holes on this because I was on the short bus at the beginning, but you can see that's mounted there and they're pretty parallel as well. Put all this back together. I can't do the front portion of the rear mount tonight because I'm getting all new brake stuff, rotors and pads and such tomorrow. They're on order from O'Reilly's. So I have to mount the caliper so I can mount the front bracket on this rear thing. If I go up to the front, and again, here's my work table, gathering parts and tools and just looking overall generally terrible. When I mocked this up, I had these 2 fenders. You can see I put a little mark on there with a Sharpie, just so I had it kind of clocked where I want it. I've got my corresponding mark on there, so I can line those back up. The only way that I can figure that I'm going to mount the fenders on there is what I did is, you can see I drilled out just the one fender so far. I drilled out the hole here where those bars are going to go through, and on this one you can see I marked where that bar came through. And for ease of assembly, we are just going to do, you can see my holes there, trying to focus on it. We're just going to use the good old P-clips and go through. I'll actually get some nice hardware, I guess, for the exterior part of the fender to go through the P-clips to hold that onto these brackets here. So that's kind of where it stays tonight because number 1, I don't have enough P-clips. Number 2, I don't have any brake stuff to assemble. So we're going to leave things like they are tonight. I've got the holes drilled in all these bits so that they can boop on there like so. And that's where we're leaving it right now. Again, super late night, 11 o'clock. So, yep, going to close up shop for tonight, leave a mess out here, come out and deal with it tomorrow sometime. All right, well, happy Tuesday night, for sure Tuesday. It is 10 p.m. We are going on already something like, I don't know, 18-hour, 19-hour day, so it's awesome. Anyways, tonight's priority, I would love it to be finishing the fenders. I got the brake parts here, picked them up from the store today, and I'd love to throw those on there, but we have to prioritize. And what I'm coming up with is I need to get the glass recut because we have to have that for the enhanced inspection, of course, and the only time it can be cut is tomorrow. So I have to have the frame redone so that I can actually get that to Randy Moyer's Auto Glass, because Big Ben there's the dude who does my glass cutting. So anyways, I have to come up with a frame because if you remember, we cracked the glass in the Exocet when we were doing the trailering to and from the tail of the Dragon. So anyways, the other thing is we have to find a way to functionally install a wiper. I did buy a cheapo Amazon doodad that it's a manually operated thing, like for a UTV, ATV. Actually, let me just come over here and get it. So it is kind of doofy looking, but this is kind of it, right? I mean, it's got a little knob on it and you just swish it back and forth. The guy who's doing my enhanced inspection is not 100% sure that will pass, but I still have to have a hole through a frame on that. and you can't just put a hole through your tempered glass. So what I'm thinking is, well, I guess what I'll do is I'm gonna flip the camera around here, kind of show you my preliminary thoughts on how I might do this. And then we'll reconvene here in just a second. All right, so here's my kind of temporary thought. This is just a trace, something similar to that. It's not exact. I did trace it, didn't cut it accurately, but I'm thinking we'll mount that somewhere in the middle, like so. Okay, then this bit here, what I'm going to do is I've got a pile of other square tube. What I'm going to do is take some of this stuff, and I got a bunch of scraps to choose from. I think I'll use this piece here because it's 1/8 inch wall, which appears to be similar to the frame you get from Exocet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. The minimum height in a specially constructed vehicle for a windshield in Pennsylvania is 12 inches. So we're going to cut that 12 inches. I'm going to cut one edge of this off, so we're basically making a C-channel. Probably could buy a C-channel. Well, when you've got scraps and the Ace Hardware store only had that other piece, which is super thin-walled stuff. I don't think I want to use that. I think I'll have this from my guy, Lynn Steele, to use this. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut that to 12 inches, and then I'll cut one edge of this off to make a C-channel. I'll put two of them back to back and weld them in the middle to create a seam, right? And I'm going to come over here, take this bracket, drill some holes through this and the existing Exocet frame. So this can be bolted to this, and then somewhere in the middle of that, approximately, I can take this and mount my handle right in the middle of it. And then the little red knob is what you would pull back and forth to make it do this. Not sure if that will pass per the state. It does state in the literature for the specially constructed vehicle in Pennsylvania that it has to complete 45 cycles a minute. So all you have to do is your hand and you can create 45 cycles a minute, as far as I'm concerned. I do have one that's for a hot rod. It's a little wiper motor that I could use, but then you got to wire it up and stuff. So we're going to try that first for Thursday, see if it passes. If not, they'll tell me no, and then I have to put the one in with the motor and do some wiring for that. But we'll see if we can just get this to work as it is right now. I don't have time to mess around, so quite honestly, I'm probably not going to record a whole lot of the fabrication because we're just, short on time. It's 10 p.m. and I'm just starting to work on this. So let me get after it. I will kind of update you as we go. Wish me luck. All right, well, you might notice that my shirt has changed. That's because it's tomorrow, and I was up until about a little after midnight working on the thing. 2 hours of fabrication. I got my windshield thing fabricated, and today took it out to Randy Moyer's Auto Glass, and Ben cut me some new pieces of glass for it, so at least we got a win in that regard. I'll show you that here in a second, but I need to clean up because I made an absolute mess out here last night. I didn't record anything because I just really needed to focus on doing things. So let me flip the camera around and I'll show you what I came up with. Well, here's those fenders I was oh, never mind. That was supposed to be what this video was about. But anyways, took the frame off last night so that I could fabricate a new thing for the middle. So here it is leaning on this old carpet here. You can see basically all I did is I made this thing in the middle and basically fabricated it to just kind of, mimic that a little bit. So basically, I had to cut my square tube in half, not quite in half, just cut the edge off so I could have two opposing C channels, and then I welded those together, ground them down, cut those pieces out, welded them onto that vertical piece, drilled holes through the frame. So I've got 4 button head bolts, 1/4 bolts coming through. You can see that's all they look like. And then after all that stuff, I had to have a place to put my windshield wiper, and it's going to go through this right here. So anyways, that actually did take me a couple of hours to do. So late at night, I didn't feel like cleaning anything up. So you can see my repository of mess here. Before I actually get to work today, putting the fenders on this thing, I am going to clean up for a couple minutes and then put the windshield back on and put the brakes on so then I can put the rear body mount doodads on. And then I'll show you that. And then hopefully by the end of tonight, we have a car with fenders and a windshield. So I'm gonna clean here for a minute and then I'll get back to you. All right, well, here we are. It is Wednesday, about 5:45, before I have to have this thing done and ready for enhanced inspection tomorrow morning. I got to drop it off at 8 a.m. I have one wheel and fender done. That's basically what it's going to look like. I had to tweak this one here so it would push back because at first I was touching here. So they are what they are. I guess you can't expect much more. Anyways, this is ready to go on this wheel. I have all my new rotors and stuff here. So I'm gonna finish this up later tonight. Can't do it right now. I'm gonna go do some crafts with the girls. So, you know, we'll get done here eventually sometime in the middle of the night. Once I'm done putting the brakes and the other brackets on there, then put the windshield back on. One other thing that I need to do, part of the inspection is that I have to have a muffler on. No, a turbo is not considered a muffler in Pennsylvania. So I have one here. It's a big, nasty looking thing, but I have mine run through a straight pipe, dropping right here by the axle, right there. So I can put that muffler like this, transversely maybe. I also, if I run out of time completely, I have a couple cherry bombs. I might just put one on there to call it a muffler and call it a day. Depends on how much time I run out of later. So anyways, there's your afternoon update. One wheel done, got to do 3 more. So this is gonna happen later tonight. I'll update you at what time in the morning that I finish. Captain's log, July 2nd, 10:30 p.m. and I'm just now getting out here. So got to put 3 fenders on and the windshield on and get to bed. Oh yeah, muffler, a muffler. We got to do a muffler. Get to bed, wake up, load it on a trailer to get it to the special or the enhanced inspection for the specially constructed vehicle thing. So one wheel is officially done. So yep, see what we can do. All right, so that was about half an hour on the front. That's not too bad, actually. On the rears here, it's going to be a little bit different because we got this one poking straight up pretty much from that rear mount thing. And then this one's going to be a little bit more forward. So we're going to have to figure out exactly where this goes. So once I do this side, I'll have a better idea for the passenger side. So I'm gonna do this side, a little bit more room over here, and then kind of see how this lines up before I jump to the other side. So anyways, yeah, if I can be done with this part by midnight, that's pretty good. Doesn't take much to put the windshield in. Only problem then is going to be to throw a muffler on it quick. So, all right, no point in wasting time. Well, I have bad news. I am not finishing. I cannot get this done for tomorrow. So new rotors, fine. I can't push that piston back in. Now, when we bled the brakes, didn't have an issue. I would run the car while it was on the lift before, hit the brakes, they would stop. They didn't really drag, I didn't think. But anyways, I mean, these are pretty spent. You can't probably see, maybe you can. There's a pretty decent ridge there on both sides. I mean, these weren't terrible looking pads. Don't worry about, I think I did the scuff marks there. Don't worry about that. I was actually pulling it off. So it was like squeezed on there. And so I'm gonna guess that both rear rotors, calipers must be bad. Maybe you can kind of see the ridge there. I don't know, it's pretty substantial. But anyways, I can't push the piston back in. If I can't push the piston back in, I can't get the new pads on. If I can't get the new pads on, we can't fit over the new rotor. It's 12:15. My daughter called me up because her mouth was hurting. She had her wisdom teeth pulled the other day. I thought I'd come out here and finish. I'm not going to. I'm gonna have to call them tomorrow and let them know that I'm rude and I have to cancel. The other thing is I thought, okay, I won't put the pads on. I'll just try mounting a wheel. So I put the caliper on this side just so I could mount the wheel, and then found this. Clearly that ain't gonna work. Both of them are really hitting, and they need to be pretty substantially bent so that they don't rub on my wheel here. So that's a future me problem. I might sound a little bit dejected now. That's because I am. I'm gonna have to call Dwayne and apologize to him tomorrow that I'm canceling last minute, because this was supposed to be there getting its inspection at 8 in the morning. And that simply is not going to happen. Well, that's not the way I wanted to end the night. So, I guess I'll finish this. Well, Friday's 4th of July, so I'll be at the Freedom Ride. Hope everybody else has a great 4th of July. I'll try and order new calipers, I guess. And that's it for tonight. Bummer. Sorry, dudes. Okay, well, life choices have been made. 1:30 in the morning. So, front fenders are on and done. And I decided, what the hell, got the windshield mounted, put my windshield wiper on there. Wiper, whatever. Had to remount the dash pod because that was loose, because poking at the switch that turns on the brights. You need to, for the enhanced inspection, you need to have an indicator on the dash that tells you when your brights are on. Anyways, here is the thing that I came up with. So basically, if I can get over here, this is our wiper switch. Whee, look at that. Hey, we just have to do that 45 times a minute, and then we should pass inspection, as long as somebody in Harrisburg doesn't think that that's retarded. But anyways, when I'm sitting in that seat, I look over the top of this windshield anyways, so whatever is what it is. Okay, so front fenders are mounted. Yep, they're there. I repeated the same process over here. You saw the time lapse, just kind of on, off. Make sure that we're kind of like covering the same amount of the tire on both sides. Eyeballed it, tighten up the hardware. So come to the rear. We have a situation in that can't get the calipers loose, so I didn't get to this side, but I did get this side done. So those brackets were both hitting the tire, so BFH solved that problem. I did not put the, I put the caliper on because you have to mount the front bracket to that, but I did not mount the pads. Anyways, do have this one rear fender on, so what it's going to involve is have to take the wheel off, take the caliper off to get the pads in, or replace the caliper if it comes down to that. So anyways, on this side, caliper is still loose. I even disconnected the parking brake thinking that something could be binding up. Nope, I don't know. Probably just need 2 new calipers. So it is officially bedtime and I'm calling it. So anyways, I'll just have to finish this another day. But 3 out of 4 fenders mounted, windshields back in, windshield wipers on. Basically, I think electrical's all good to go. So once I get the rear calipers sorted out, I throw those on, pads on, and then this one fender, and we're ready to go. Anyways, that's that. Just wanted to update you since it is, 0 dark 30. So anyways, catch you next time. Well, good morning. If it looks like I look like hell, it's because I went to bed at like 1:30 and got up at like 6. And after finishing all the rest of this stuff last night, I was like, all right, this morning I'm just gonna look and see what was I doing wrong with the caliper. So I'm gonna turn the camera around. If you're new to doing anything with Miatas, like me, I'll show you why you can't compress the caliper real quick. So yeah, didn't know there's a little set screw that you need to adjust in the back of the caliper, and that allows you to push the piston back in. So let me turn the camera around and show you what the hell we're talking about. All right? All right, so this is the driver's side caliper, and I'm gonna try and tilt this like so. On the back of the caliper, you've got this bracket here with a bolt that holds this bracket on. That holds your, woohoo, almost lost her, holds your parking brake on. There is another bolt right next to it, okay? That has a secret compartment inside of it that holds a 4mm set screw in there. You have to back that all the way out to allow the piston to compress. And after the piston is compressed, then you can put your new pads in. I got new pads. It did not come with this little retainer clip in there, so I'm glad that I saved that on both of them. Now I'm going to put the caliper back on, then apparently when it's on, then you adjust this set screw so you can turn the hub with a little bit of resistance, but not a lot. So then once that's adjusted, you put your little bolt back in to cover the hole in the back of the caliper. So I'm going to see if I can do this really, really quick and get this ready to go for inspection. All right, well, it is July 5th today. You'll notice that I did not make the enhanced inspection on Thursday, which was the 3rd. So I ran into some issues on the rear, had to replace both calipers. This video here was about putting the fenders on, not about doing a brake job on a Miata, so I didn't really record anything more. I was really frustrated that morning. I was really tired, and basically I was over it. Then on Friday, had the Freedom Ride, and today's Saturday, so I finally finished everything up. So here you can see the Exocet Sport with the fenders on it. I think they actually look okay. I mean, it was kind of awesome as an open wheel car. It'll probably be better with the fenders, whatever. It was a total headache putting them on. So as I was editing the video over the past few days, I realized how absolutely long and absurd it was getting. So I think I'll try and throw the chapter list in this video if I can figure that function out on YouTube, just so basically you can get to where you want to. Anyways, so here it is. I'll walk you around. I will go over some pointers and tips as I'm going through the way I mounted the fenders, and hopefully it helps you, because I couldn't find any other resources online about how to actually put the fenders on the Exocet. So that being said, hopefully I drop it off Tuesday for the enhanced inspection, and we are totally ready to go and fully registered and clear for state of Pennsylvania. So anyways, let me take you around, show you what I did. All right, so here you go, front of the car. And you can see you got front and rear fenders on. So fronts, they look pretty good. It does take an awful lot of messing around with hardware and trying to get these things to mount up. You can see the gaps not totally perfect, but dude, at this point, I don't care. I'm showing you the driver's side just because it's easier for me to get over here and give you a perspective as opposed to this side, which is jammed up against the wall here. But anyways, you can see we've got 4 fenders on. So it does require taking the calipers all the way off, taking the dust shields off the front and rear. Then these brackets here are pretty darn close to what you need, but they are not perfect. You will be bending those. You will be messing with them to try and get them to line up. The front ones, you take the very front, all right? So there's 2 bars, brackets, whatever, per fender. The front one on the front mounts to the where the dust cover was. So you have to take the front wheel off and the brakes and everything and the spindle to get at that. This one here mounts to the top spindle bolt, right? So after you do that, then you have to figure out front to back, how do you want them to lean, right? Because it'll change the angle, the relationship between where it mounts to the hub, and then this bar here can lean forward, it can be going back that way. The angle here, you would assume would be 90 degrees. It's pretty close to that, but you have to definitely manipulate it. Then you have to drill holes on this side of the fender so that bar can get in there and underneath. And then you have to figure out where you're gonna mount that. So what I did is I drilled some holes. There are P-clips on this bar so that we can run this hardware through. And I've got rubber washers on the outside fender side, and I just use these button head Allen screws, makes it look a little bit neater. And then a nylock nut on the inside, on the other side of the P-clip to hold the fenders on. Same thing over here, just, inverted. So on the rears, okay, so if we can get back here, and you can see, again, I did have that part on the video. 2 bolts to hold the rearmost mount to the mounting bracket for the caliper. You have to drill those holes. Probably easiest to have the spindle off of the car. The front one, that just mounts to the top caliper bolt up there. Quite honestly, it would be easier for all of this if I had, the suspension apart and everything. I did have to take the shocks out. Mine turned into a rear caliper. I was going to replace all the brakes anyways, but it turns out I needed new calipers. The reason for that is if you come over here, when you're adjusting the brakes, okay, well, to adjust the brakes, there's this little doodad. Again, I'm not a Miata guy, so I learned this as I went. This slides in there, right? And it's a 4mm hex, and you can go in and out with that. And what that does is it allows the piston to push back, which was fine. After I figured that out, I could move that back so I could get my new pads in there. But the issue was whatever this pin that allows the caliper to slide back and forth was frozen. So I couldn't actually get this part of the bracket on the caliper to move back and forth, and therefore I couldn't put new pads in. So that's why I had to get brand new calipers for my car. Maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe you bought new ones anyways, but that added a huge headache to me to get this done. So anyways, what do I have to do left before the inspection? I do have to put a muffler on. I'm not going to bother you with that part. That's just a Pennsylvania enhanced safety inspection thing. It has to have a muffler. These headlights, they're the ones that I bought from Exocet. They're called Dominators. They are super dim and they suck. So I ordered new LED ones that are going to replace that. And that has to happen probably Monday night so that we can drop this off Tuesday for the inspection. Also, I redid the windshield. I don't even remember what I talked about in that regard, but here's what I did. I put a brace in the center because theory is that this is a very long span for a windshield, and maybe your state doesn't need it, but Pennsylvania requires a vehicle to have a windshield. If it is a specially constructed vehicle, it has to be 12 inches tall. If it's a street rod, it can be 7 inches tall. Whatever. They also require a windshield wiper, which is dumb because when I'm sitting there, I can see over the top of this, so who cares? But nonetheless, I got this on here just has to do 45 cycles a second. So I guess I just count in my hand or in my mind as I'm going 1 man thousand, 2 man thousand, 3 man thousand, whatever, you get it. You can do 45 cycles in a minute. There's my windshield wiper for the state of Pennsylvania. Everything else is buttoned up, ready to go. So wish me luck on Tuesday. I'm going to be done farting around with this for now, and I think it looks good. I hope the state doesn't give me too much trouble. Followed all their rules, and I think it does look pretty darn good in the end. So, anyways, if you want to build your own, go for it. Plan on taking some time, but I don't know. It's a fun little build. So, hope you enjoyed. Again, I'll keep you posted on other projects. I'll show you some. I think last video, or yeah, maybe we were talking about the Blair County Antique Auto Club 50th anniversary. I'll throw a montage of some of those cars. I'll throw in a little video of the Freedom Ride that I did yesterday. And we raised $50,000 for the VA here in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So anyways, happy 4th. Hope you had a great weekend. Catch you guys later.